What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra. I am joined this week by my lovely, lovely co-host Ty. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's
Who are you?
Who am I? I am Numac. I suppose I better
There you
introduce
go.
myself. Gotta get
Yeah.
back into the rhythm of that. I am your host. Ty is, I guess we're both co-hosts. I should be taking the
You're the Don. No, you're the host. You're the
Okay. All
host.
right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But we're here to bring you a preview pod of another division rivalry game. 2 weeks into the season for the Packers. First the Vikings last week, and now against the Chicago Bears. We're coming off a 19-10 victory in an absolute sloppy slobber knocker of a game on
Yes.
Sunday in the
Sloppy steaks was all they could eat for a post game meal after that game.
pretty much as a torrentially downpoured in Chicago as it's known to do. But first, before we jump into the preview, we want to direct you guys over to the Win in 6 feed. Jordan has put together a wonderful, wonderful audio essay on Larry Costello and his time as a player and Bucks coach. Larry Costello, of course, is the coach of the 1971 Bucks title team that bring the first title to Milwaukee with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson and that team. And he was inducted into the is it the Naismith Hall of Fame, Ty? Correct.
Correct. The
Uh,
Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA Hall of Fame.
Correct. He was inducted posthumously this past weekend, along with Dell Harris and George
Some
Karl,
other people.
some other
Yes.
people.
Some other people.
Yeah,
Manu got in.
yeah. Mano got in, and he was
Yeah.
properly recognized by his franchise, and so yeah, go check it out. It was an absolutely wonderful, wonderful thing that Jordan had created, and once it was done, him and Adam talked about the importance of Bucks history, remembering it just as they've been doing for so long. So hop on over to the Win in Six feed. I've listened to it a couple times now. It's really good. So go check
It
them out.
is. The Eurostep Podcast Network feed, Win in Six, the show lives within it. So it's our Bucks feed. If you're already subscribed, you missed it, check it out there. If not, as with everything, find the link at gspn.info.
Absolutely. So Ty, let's get into this preview. I'm excited.
Yeah.
The Bears Packers games always are fun. We'll say competitive. Sometimes they're not so much fun. I say that because like I remember when Khalil Mack practically broke Aaron Rodgers in half that one time when he was off of a perk or two, according to his own words. So maybe maybe they're not always fun for everybody, but it's the one of the best rivalries in the NFL, and we get it early this year, which is exciting. So I'm hoping the Packers can bounce back against a young and not so much talented Chicago Bears team. They have their young quarterback in Justin Fields, and probably their best offensive weapon on the team, or on obviously on offense, is Dave Montgomery, their running back, who didn't do so hot last week against the Niners for some reason. They were riding Khalil Herbert, so it'll be interesting to see how this team develops on offense throughout the year. Because as we were talking about before, Ty, it seems like they don't have a lot of wide receiver ones and twos like the Packers do. They sort of have a lot of wide receiver threes and fours.
Yeah. I think the way you said that is a little confusing. You think their wide receiver room is like the Packers wide receiver room in that, right?
Yes,
For a second, I thought you meant like, yeah, they're not like the Packers. They don't have a lot of wide receiver ones and twos. And I was like, do the Packers? That would be great if the Packers had a lot of ones and twos.
exactly.
They had one last year. They maybe have a couple twos. I mean, that's not shortchange Allen Lazard too much. But yeah, the Bears team, I think, you know, they're the Bears, so it wasn't that fun for us. But seeing a team like that beat a team like the Niners is, I think, always kind of inherently fun. Bears, anti-Bears bias aside, just because they were underdogs and they weren't supposed to win that game. And even with the unproven Trey Lance at quarterback for San Francisco, that's a team that was clearly favored to win. Although, as you know, a lot of sharps pointed out on Sunday, the field conditions, the rain, the Kentucky bluer than normal grass because of all the water on it really made this game, a kind of just a toss up. There's so much variance when the field is literally like Waterworld, and the Bears come out on top. And I think, my big takeaway from this game was not like, oh, the Bears are great. I pulled up the PFF overall grades for every team. Despite winning, they have the worst overall grade. So the folks at PFF who watch all the plays still thought the Bears sucked. They just thought they happened to win that football game. But what I came away from that game outside of just the rain takeaways was like, you've got to beat them. I think they're one of those bad teams. Like they're not like a hilariously bad team. I think that's just going to fall apart and implode like, Urban Meyer Jags or something like that. I think they are a team that like they're very beatable. I mean, you look around this team, offense and defense, there's not a lot of guys who you're like, oh yeah, that's a proven good NFL player. They don't have a great offensive line either. But I think this is like a pretty competent football team. Again, our sample size is so small, but it seems like the new management there has maybe done a better job than people thought at picking players. Maybe not. I mean, I do think they're kind of hoping they get a really good draft pick this year. They're going to have the most cap space in the NFL this coming off season.
Yep.
They don't have a lot of dead money. They probably will end up moving on Roquan Smith at some point, who is one of their best players, a linebacker. So I think they are still set up for the future, but at the same time, I don't think they're like trying to be egregiously bad. I think they're just a team bereft of top talent who you still have to go out and beat. So it's going to be an interesting challenge, I think, for the Packers.
Right. I agree. I think one of the interesting matchups that we'll get into a little bit later is how the offensive line handles Roquan Smith. Because like if they are trotting out Jake Hansen at one of the guard positions, Jake Hansen, owner of a 15 PFF grade last week, is not going to handle Roquan Smith much better than he did Zadarius Smith, for that matter. But I was looking because I was curious as to like see if like Vegas was interested in the Bears at all after last week's win. They are not. They are not.
They're not.
Bears are 9.5-point dogs. So
yeah,
which is a lot for a division game.
Going into Lambeau though.
First home game coming off a loss, like I'm sure there's a chip on the Packers shoulder. It just
Soldier Field.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems a lot for a division game when usually all division games are a little closer than the typical game.
They are, except the Packers are on a 6-game win streak against Chicago. I have some Bears-Packers stats. I think now is a good time to throw them at you. If the Packers sweep the Bears this year, they will match Chicago's longest ever winning streak against Green Bay, 8 games. That was in the 80s. They'll have to win another year after this one, though, to tie the Packers win streak, 94-98. The Packers won 10 straight against the Bears. Obviously, back in 2017, the Packers took the lead in the overall series. They have not let it go. It's 103, 95, and 6. It's a long one when there's 6 ties. It's a long one, or the Steelers are involved in an overall series when there's 6 ties. The Bears had 24-game leads in this thing twice in 1960 and then in 92.
Yep.
Split in the playoffs. A not so fun fact. Do you know the last time these two teams met when the Bears had a better record than Green Bay?
Yeah. So when's the last time they met in Green Bay?
No, sorry. No, that's not part of it. Although that might also that's not true. No, the last time they met and the Bears had the better record than Green Bay is what I meant to say. You probably do.
It has to be pre-Favre. So
no.
Oh no, because they just passed or came tied a couple.
No,
years
I'm
ago.
sorry. I stated the question bad. I meant in that season.
Rephrase your question again. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through it.
The last time the Bears and Packers played at any point in a regular season when the Bears had a better record that season.
Oh, a better record in this like a single season?
Yeah. So coming into the game that season.
Oh, okay. 2007 when they went to the Super Bowl?
2018. I think they won the division that year. The second time they played in December. That was the year Philbin took over. McCarthy, I think, got fired that year. The Bears were 10-4 in December, and the Packers were 5-8-1.
We got there.
What a great segment that was. It must have been 2017 the last time they played when the Bears had a better overall record. Right. I guess it could have been 2016 when they tied it. But whatever. Let's move on.
Either which way. Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about the game.
Yep.
So going into this game, I want to talk about defense first a little bit because I think it really should be more of a factor than it was in the Vikings game, rather a more positive factor than it was a negative factor in the Minnesota Vikings game. As we kind of touched on already, the Bears don't have a lot of talent at receiver. Their most talented, healthy receiver is Darnell Mooney. And last week, which again, torrentially downpouring and just a sloppy game, only had 3 targets and had 1 catch for I believe it was about 8 yards. So not the biggest show out from Darnell Mooney, but otherwise they're trotting out Dante Pettis, Byron Pringle, the former Kansas City Chief, and former Packer Equanimous St. Brown. And that's really all the talent they have there at wide receiver. They use David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert out of the backfield as well, but these receivers aren't Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Like, if we get torched this week, it's going to be bad news Bears to,
Yeah.
to
The
play.
funny thing I think going into this is the Packers can and probably will get away playing like entirely zone. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be fine here because there is not that one standout weapon. So, well, hopefully there's no quote after the game where Jair is like, I can't believe they didn't let me go for Byron Pringle. They knew I wanted the Pringle all week and they didn't let me have Byron Pringle. No, but yeah, it should be. I think this is going to be a good litmus test because I think if the Bears are able to get up to like the 20s or higher in points, I think that's kind of an indictment on the Packers defense. And it seems unfair. I mean, there can be random plays. And obviously, I'm counting offense only in that. Like if there's, a kick return, that's a different problem. But, if Justin Fields is able to go down the field, like full fields and score more than twice touchdowns, I would be a little bit concerned. Again, there's single game variance, but this would now be 2 games of variance because obviously the Packers defense was not great against the Vikings last week. And again, this should be a winnable game. Should be a game where you can hold the Bears to relatively modest scoring, should be able to move the ball and score against them. We'll get to the injury report, but especially if Allen Lazard is able to go, which we probably won't know until much closer to the game. But yeah, I agree with you. I think watching Green Bay, especially, given the way we came into the season thinking defense was going to be this team's calling card, this is a really good opportunity to make a statement and prove that defense is the calling card on Sunday Night Football in Lambeau Field. There's no excuse in this one.
Absolutely not. And yeah, I think it's going to be critical to keep Justin Fields in the pocket. Like, I have PTSD of watching Russell Wilson and Colin Kaepernick and insert running quarterback here to just running all over the Packers, Dom Capers' zone defense. It drove me insane through the mid 2010s. And so Justin Fields is of that, like, birds of a feather. He's the same type of quarterback to where if he's in trouble and there's nobody open downfield, he'll tuck it and run. And he can beat you with his legs, as we saw at Ohio State. And just saw last year a little bit too. Like, he is able to make running plays. And if they can't keep the contain on the edge and he can roll out and start going and they don't have a spy on Fields, it's going to be an issue, I think. So
what do you think about Fields? Like overall, not just his player profile? Because I think we just don't know that much yet. And I don't know how much we'll learn this year because of the talent around him. But I do think that's probably a swing factor for them this season and beyond. Like, is Fields legit good or is Fields, I think he's proven he's a capable NFL quarterback at minimum, which is fine, but that's not a needle moving thing, right? We don't know fully yet. But what's your thought on Fields? And at least for now, I'm not asking you to project his whole career because, again, our sample is pretty tough to determine from at this point.
Yep. It's hard to talk about who he is as a quarterback because the Bears have done a horrendous job surrounding him with talent. Like, we just got off the wide receiver talk. Like, you can't be putting... I forget where they took him at, but he's a first-round quarterback. You can't be surrounding your
11th overall.
Took him 11th overall. You can't surround your 11th overall quarterback with garbage at wide receiver his developmental years. Like, that's sort of the wave in the NFL right now, is that you get your QB last. You have everything you want for a contender, and then you get your QB last. Similarly to how the Lions are doing it right now. Like, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, DeAndre Swift. Like, they have their specialists on lockdown for the next 5 years. But They just need to like figure out if Goff is going to do something with them or if they need to keep tanking and find a quarterback early in the first round. The Bears have done the exact opposite of that. They have, outside of David Montgomery, they have no real weapons that they should be excited about for Justin Fields to throw to. Like they signed N'Keal Harry from the Patriots this offseason to a free agency deal, but he got hurt, and then they brought in Byron Pringle. But like that, N'Keal Harry is not your wide receiver one for Justin Fields to throw to. And
I think they got the better player as the backup plan. Honestly, I like Pringle more than N'Keal Harry.
I agree,
but still not a not a top flight weapon by any means.
Exactly. And so between not having anything, like true weapons, like they don't have a Justin Jefferson, they don't have an Amon-Ra St. Brown, they don't have like a young Devontae Adams for.
They have a St. Brown, just not the good one, not the better one,
not the good one.
Yeah.
But they don't have like that exciting young wide receiver to put with Fields to actually showcase his talent and showcase what he's like as a quarterback. And the same goes with the offensive line. The offensive line is not good. Like they brought in Alex Leatherwood, who was by all intents and purposes a bust in Oakland, and that's why they let him go.
Yeah.
And so they clearly need help wherever they can get it, and I think if he gets the opportunity outside of Chicago, he might have a promising career. Where they are right now with him, I don't know if he has that career in Chicago, just because he's not going to be able to prove what is able to do with the talent they're surrounding him with.
Yeah, this could be a big week for him. I mean, again, a sloppy game last week, but still he manages to throw 2 touchdowns to 1 interception, I believe. Winning against the Packers in Lambeau would obviously go a long way. He's not positioned to do that, as we'll get into. But you make a good point on the Bears' offensive line. Again, I think this is a good litmus test for the whole Packers defense. Defensive line certainly among them in the edge rushers. Because, again, this should be a game. If you lose them a couple times, I guess that could happen.
Yeah.
But there should be pretty consistent pressure on Justin Fields, which we really did not see happening to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. So
again, this is one where it's not like, you see the Packers play well against the Bears and think, oh, Super Bowl is around the corner, but it's almost like just like a benchmark you want to hit, right? Like, and not even trying to trash like not every year it's like this, but this year, this Bears, it's like, okay, you should really show out against this team, or there's some deeper problems than maybe we even realized.
Right, like in as a respectful way as possible, they should beat the bricks off of the Bears.
Yes,
like it's the offense isn't as high powered as it was last year, obviously, and in previous years with Devontae Adams. Like it's hard not to keep going back to the offense how it looked in previous years with him, but they need to pound the ball. I guess this will be our transition to the offense.
Just one last thing.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to see any, and I know it's a little unrealistic, maybe like one, but I need to see so much better play from not just the corners, but the entire secondary.
Yeah.
Like, just don't lose anybody. Even if Fields is extending a play, which isn't really something Kirk did. He just had a long time to throw, Kirk Cousins. Like, that to me, week one, whatever, maybe you're just off. I think there's still no excuse for how they played, but if it happens 2 weeks in a row where they're just straight up losing guys, that to me is like, what the hell is happening out here? So I still don't really have a great explanation for how the Packers lost Justin Jefferson like 3 or 4 times week one. But I think that maybe more than anything, like if the pass rush is okay, I think I could live. If the secondary is just losing guys again, right, I'll really be on like maybe not DEFCON 5 or whatever the strongest one is. I'll be at DEFCON 3. Yeah. That one's got to be in the middle no matter what. I don't know what the right order is.
I'm pretty sure.
I think 5 is the worst, but I could be wrong.
5 is
no.
5 is the best.
See, that's why I went 3.
DEFCON 1 is maximum readiness with immediate response. Exercise term is cocked pistol, which is hold on, we're gonna go on a little bit of a tangent here. The exercise terms for DEFCONs is hilarious. DEFCON 1 is cocked pistol.
Yep.
DEFCON 2 is fast pace. That's like normal. DEFCON 3 is roundhouse.
What?
DEFCON 4 is double take. Then DEFCON 5 is fade out.
Fade out? What? These are none of these seem analogous at all.
I'd never heard that before, and that That's really funny.
I'll put it this way: I'll be on the edge of getting cocked if the secondary cannot contain Byron Pringle and Darnell Mooney. That's the best way I think say it according to the DEFCON scale.
Phrasing. All right. But yeah, I strongly
Yeah,
agree that
yeah,
they can't be losing people in this wide receiving core. Like there is clips on Monday and Tuesday this week of like even Jair Alexander and some of his times when he was covering Justin Jefferson just getting absolutely cooked, which like will
yeah.
happen. He's an all pro level wide receiver. But you can't have Darnell Savage getting turned around. You can't have Adrian Amos just losing people. Like it just can't happen. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Quay Walker play.
Yep.
Oh, we didn't go through the injury report, so let's do that
Yeah.
because Quay Walker was a full participant in practice on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Obviously, that's just the first injury report of the week. Going through the defense for injury report, Kayshawn Nixon with a shoulder injury. It looked like he dislocated it when he made that nice tackle in the open field. He was a full participant in practice this week. And then on offense, John Runyon was the only DNP with his concussion. Alan Lazard was limited in practice, along with David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins. And then Jake Hansen with a shoulder injury was a full participant in practice. Ryan Wood had reported on Sunday, Sunday, I believe.
Prior to the game Sunday, right?
Prior to the game Sunday, when it was announced that Bakhtiari and Jenkins would be out, that they were unlikely to play this week against the Bears as well. So expect the Packers to be down their two best offensive linemen going into this game with the Bears. Hopefully, it's not that big of a deal as it was last week.
And further potential, might just be more to Runyon, but also Caleb Jones was signed from the practice squad for this game. Upgraded, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. So he'll be available for the Packers this game. He's not signed to the 53. Good clarification.
Yep.
But the huge standout for, again, a guy who got cut ultimately, but the big, young, intriguing tackle that we talked about on the cut day pod and the post cut day pod. So he's available. Again, that might just be more to do with Runyon, but also doesn't seem like they're super optimistic about both Bakhtiari and Jenkins at least being able to go. Otherwise, if you lose one guy and you're adding two guys, you probably don't need to call one up. So that's, again, just an amateur read at this, but it is another move that sort of indicates, not a ton of confidence in those two guys being totally ready.
Right, exactly. So going into the offense, obviously, like we had just mentioned, that the offensive line, I don't want to say shouldn't, because like these are NFL players, they can produce pressure, but they like the Roquan Smith side of the ball is where I'm a little bit concerned about if Jake Hansen's out there at guard, and so I really want the Packers to lean on their run game this week. Like, it worked so well when they went to it against the Vikings, and we know that these running backs can do it. And so that's kind of my main watch for this week. And also just Rodgers being confident in his throws and giving the young guys a little more something to chew on with how he handles their targets and their opportunities. Because obviously, coming out of last week, the biggest story was Christian Watson dropping the ball on the first drive of the game for them. And coming out of practice this week, again, Ryan Wood had reported, he had tweeted this afternoon, it's Wednesday afternoon, that Aaron Rodgers is optimistic. Rookie wide receivers Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs will develop. Quote, these are good kids, they really are. They want to please, they want to do the right thing, they care about it. I'm going to figure out a way to continue to get them on the same frequency with them. So here's to hoping that he doesn't cast them out after one drop, because that's not helpful for anybody on the team, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah, I also really hope that we don't I hope Lazard can play, and I think he can obviously add a lot. I hope we don't get into a situation where there's another player Rodgers just forces the ball to, because as we've talked about, there is almost, I don't want to say conflicts, I think it's being a little bit overblown, but there is just a fundamental difference in, I think, how Rodgers wants to operate sometimes versus the Matt LaFleur offense, which again is Shanahan tree, kind of an extension of the McVay offense, a lot of rushing, as we've seen the resources put into running backs and,
Yep.
and everything else. So, I hope we don't get Rodgers just trying to force it to Lazard. I don't think we will. But I do have a note on the offensive line and what we want to see there. Actually, two.
Okay.
One, Matt LaFleur said Zach Tom is in competition to start every week. So will be intriguing to see if our cheese board guy starts in this game or doesn't, depending on how things shuffle around with the injury. Again, that's if Runyon does miss the game, which is still TBD at this point.
Right.
Two, I've got a bear for you to watch. Dominique Robinson, who is the highest graded as per PFF player on Chicago's defense, recorded 1.5 sacks. This is a 5th round pick, 174 overall rookie for Chicago, who, again, it was one game. It was in the rain. It was kind of a mess, but really made some nice plays against the 49ers and stood out and was able to impact the ball. It seems like in addition to Roquan from the linebacker spot, Robinson off of the edge, he is number 91 of the Chicago Bears, could be a player who is a good test for the probably still going to be patchwork Green Bay offensive line. This is the guy who seems like, if anyone, at least based on last week, if there's anyone who's able to really damage the offensive line, might be this guy. So it'll be intriguing to watch. Was that a flash in the pan thing for a rookie, or is this really going to be a new player that we're going to watch for every time we play the Packers play the Bears?
Right. I was looking at Dominic Robinson's player profile on ESPN, and I'm just laughing because they clearly don't do the projections based on analysis. It's based on math. And so Dominic Robinson had, like you said, 1.5 sacks last week. 1.5 sacks last week.
Are they projecting him for like 40?
For 25.5, which would be the record.
Super reasonable.
Which would be the record.
Reasonable. Yeah.
Like by 3. It beat Strahan's record by 3 whole sacks. So
yeah, that makes sense. And also, he had 5 tackles, so pencil him in for 80 tackles, 85 tackles.
He had total. That was 5 solo tackles. He had 7 total tackles, so 119 tackles this season, which would be that's insane.
I mean, light numbers for AJ Hawk, but pretty insane for an edge rusher.
Yeah. So, regardless, sorry, I had to go on that little tangent.
That's funny.
I was giggling at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll be sure number 91 if you're following along with us. So look out for him and see how he lines up and see if he's like you said, a flash in the pan, or if he's something legitimate for this Bears defense, which is usually a pretty staunch defense. So
yeah.
But yeah, seeing Rodgers not ice out anybody at all in the game would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's just be happy-go-lucky Rodgers and start feeding the ball to everybody. I understand that Rodgers' competitiveness, as I mentioned last week, is what makes him Aaron Rodgers, what makes him who he is and the kind of quarterback he is. But I think he needs to, this is obviously armchair quarterbacking, literally, but just kind of take a step back in his role and realize that this team isn't constructed like the 2010 team when they won the Super Bowl. It's not constructed like the last 3 teams they've had where they went to an NFC Championship game. There's going to be some bumps in the road with this team, and I think that's good, given how the last 3 years have went. They've always peaked during the middle of the season. Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt talked about it on air last week against the Vikings, is that a lot of these teams end up that had playoff success start to peak later in the season. They start to get going as the season goes on. They don't know they're that good right away. And so I would like to see somewhat of that variance. It might be a little rougher week to week as a fan to watch that, but to see them develop as a team and start getting things working more consistently as weeks 10 through 18 come along would be more encouraging to me as a fan going into the playoffs than it would be to go 9-1 to start the season and then lose 2 or 3 times at the end of the season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I I want just more consistent week to week football. And whatever this new week one, curse or hex is for the Packers, hopefully again, like last year, it is just a week one thing and we only see, 2, 3 losses the rest of the way for Green Bay. A couple specific things I'm going to be looking for offensively. I need at least 20 combined carries for AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones.
Without a doubt.
At least 20.
Without
It
a
was
doubt.
15 last week, and I understand the team was trailing for pretty much all of the game, but it wasn't that urgent, especially in the first half. And seeing an over reliance, I think, on passing for a team where we talked about the receiving core is not proven at all. Just need to see more carries. So hopefully, again, this is a game where the Packers are able to limit Chicago offensively and able to play that more run heavy style more comfortably. But either way, I just more touches, especially for Aaron Jones, who,
Yep.
again, as we stressed last time, only having 8 touches. He was targeted. Would have been 10 if he caught all 5 of his targets, but still 8 actual touches. Just not good enough for the most dynamic player on your offense. So I really hope we see Aaron Jones featured early and often, and AJ Dillon. I'm not saying take anything away from him. He's been excellent, really impressed me as a pass catcher week one. But I want to see both of those guys involved more because they're probably, in terms of skill position players, they've got to be 1 and 2, right? Even assuming Lazard is healthy.
I would say so.
Maybe Lazard's up there.
I'd say
Maybe it's a
one.
conversation.
Yeah, I'd say one Aaron Jones,
Yeah.
like a slight gap. AJ Dillon and Al Lazard.
Yeah, I'm fine putting them together in tier 2.
Yeah.
And then maybe Tunyon below that, and everyone else is kind of TBD for me.
Right. And so good, you had mentioned at least 20 touches combined in the run game.
Carries, yeah.
Yeah, in the run game for them
Yeah.
this week. I'd be fine even if they had 26 total touches last week, or total targets last week. I'd would like to see that number up to 35, 40 between getting them more involved running as well as a couple more passes in the passing game, just because they are our best specialist options. I really want to see them on the field at the same time too. That just brings a whole new dynamic to this offense that they haven't explored in the Matt LaFleur era, and seeing how they can bait the offense into a AJ Dillon up the gut run and then get a wheel route to Aaron Jones on the sideline sounds exciting to me, because it's basically a run pass option for Rodgers with the 2 best players on the offense. You could get AJ Dillon to go for 10 yards up the middle, or Aaron Jones for 15 up the sideline if whatever option is given to him. And the faults of Rodgers are, I shouldn't say obvious, they exist, but if there's one thing to say about him is that he can recognize defenses quite well.
And place a ball when a coverage does open up.
Exactly. And so I would like them to sort of take advantage of that and run some of those option plays with both the running backs.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I wonder if the concern there is just not having enough total running backs on the roster to where you don't want to overwork those guys, and then there's no one else if one of them does get injured or needs extra time off. So that'd be, again, who's injured right now? On the pup, the running back, their third running back, essentially.
Kylan Hill?
Kylan Hill, yes.
I don't know if it's Kylan. I think it is, though.
I think it is. Yeah, I wonder how much that plays into it, but I agree. I think, and who knows, maybe this is trying to save something in the bag for later on in the season and postseason, but I think that's probably overthinking it. I do think, though, that, if you really need points at a certain point in the game, it doesn't make a ton of sense to keep either of those guys off the field because you just don't have better skill position options.
Right. And I'm not saying
yeah, I know you're not saying
drive,
single down. Yeah.
But at least once every other drive, just play with it because they're good. Play them.
Exactly.
Quick Kylan Hill note. 2 days ago, he posted a very clear, crisp image of his face looking pensively into the Viking stands while there's no fans there. And it just says, real soon. So he might be coming back soon.
Real soon.
That's all it says. That it's got 600 likes. So good for Kylan. Hope to see you back soon, buddy.
Shout out to Packers fans that the third running back who's currently not playing is drumming up 600. Also, Kurt Benkert is a celebrity.
He's verified on TikTok. I saw him today.
He got an NFL call recently. I don't know if they're going to sign him or not. But yeah, everyone knows. I didn't have to say that. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. So, I think going. I want to keep going this expectations route.
Yeah. I have another question I'm going to lob at you later too.
Okay, well maybe I answer it right now.
Well, maybe.
The You had said 20 carries for Jones and AJ Dillon combined. I think I want to see upwards of 15 combined targets between Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, even if Lazard is healthy.
Mm. I don't know if that's a realistic number. I don't.
They
That
had
one I don't
9
mind
last
as
game.
much. Well, yeah, but
And
that one
that's
I don't care as much about the total number because I don't mind if they're spreading out the ball more, and I don't mind if they're running the ball more too,
right.
especially if they're up. But I think how about that? What did you say?
I said 15 combined for the two of them because they had 9 total targets last um
I
last week.
would be okay with like even if it's like around 10, but I'd rather see a more consistent cadence. Because
I
it felt
think
like Watson was a lot early and late and then just did not get any looks in the middle of the game.
yeah,
So if it's 10 total and it's like 2-3, 2-3 per quarter to those guys, I'm okay with it if it's spread out evenly. I feel like that's even more important than the overall number.
yeah,
Is if Christian, especially Watson, I think Dobbs is fine. I think Rogers likes Dobbs. Dobbs
yeah,
played well, more except for the one play. But I think like I want to see Watson get targeted at least once or twice every quarter and not get frozen out for a lot of the game. Because I
yeah,
just worry about the rhythm and the confidence, especially the way his career started, first play of week one, that I would like to see him just targeted more frequently, like once every other drive at least.
right. Like I think part of that is that I just don't see any of the DBs on the Bears that I should be afraid
Yeah.
of, like locking up either one of those guys. Like they're impressive athletes and receivers. Like they should be able to hold their own against this Bears secondary. And I think this would be a good game for one of them to break out, and that's what I'm sort of looking for. Like getting if Alan Lazard is playing and is healthy and isn't limited at all, it'd be good to get him rhythm as well because he needs to develop into that wide receiver one role that we want him to develop into. But this is a good week before you go to the Buccaneers next week, and to get these rookie wide receivers ready for a more stout secondary and a more talented defense in Tampa. That's my kind of like main goal is to get these guys ramping up for tougher matchups.
Yeah. One corner to look for, and it might not be because of his coverage necessarily, but Jalen Johnson, who I believe it was said took his number because of Peanut Tillman on the Bears, punched out a football against the Niners week one to thwart a scoring drive. I think it was early too. I think it was
Gotcha.
kind of the Niners seemed like they had some momentum. And this play, honestly, I think really kind of threw them off for a while
Mm-hmm.
and let the Bears stay in it. So I would look for that. It does seem like that's going to be an emphasis, if not for the whole defense, at least for
Right.
him. So that's who, and he may end up being the guy who gets the Lazard matchup if Lazard can play.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be something to watch, I think. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that the targets and the games could shake out that I feel good about the Packers offense.
Yeah.
But I want to see the ball spread around more in general. I'd love to see Lazard play and look good. And just want to see the rookies involved. It's not about the overall number for me, but the worst case is we see another 2.5, 3 quarters consecutively
Right.
where Christian Watson's just out there doing cardio and not actually getting targeted. Because I think that's the kind of thing that kind of just gets to a player. And I'm not saying that, he's owed anything, but second round draft pick, he has clear skills. I mean, he torched an NFL defense the first play of his career. He just didn't complete the play.
Right.
But there is a positive in there. The silver lining is that he opened up that play in the first place.
Yep.
So that's what I don't want to see. I really don't want to see a freeze up. I hope we see more of the LaFleurian offense where the ball is all over the place.
Right.
Rodgers looks engaged and the ball is moving, more
Yep.
importantly.
I think like my best case scenario for this game is, and like obviously this is the best case scenario for any game, but like it's a lot of points scoring on offense. Like ideally, I want a lot of offense. I want a lot of chunk plays.
I want 3 different players to get into the end zone.
Yeah,
I
ideally.
think that would be ideal.
Yeah. And just like get this team ready to go to Tampa next week because
Yeah.
that's going to be hard. Because apparently all the talk of Tom Brady falling off was not it. They beat
Yeah.
the Cowboys, so like a large salt lamp piece of salt to go with that. But like it's still Tom Brady. It's still in Tampa. They still have Mike Evans and they still have a high-powered offense. So it's going to be important that they're ready, and this is the perfect leading game for that. Like, man, 45-3, just perfect. That'd be
I'm
so.
always down for that. I mean, really, the other thing too is you can't really say it, but it's almost a must-win game. I mean, I
Oh,
just don't think if you're the Packers, you can start 0-2, losing to two division rivals. The Bears at home, this Bears team, that's really bad in itself. And then, as you mentioned, you go to Tampa next week. As we looked at before the season, it's not exactly a murderer's row, but it's not an easy schedule.
right.
And the Vikings game, again, as we talked about, kind of understandable to lose that one given the circumstances. Plus, it's going to be your hardest division game, and it's really hard to sweep the division every year. It's really hard
Yeah.
to win 6 division games. The
The
Bears at home, though, is a different story.
It's a must-win game for the Vibes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
there's
Can you overcome 0-2? Of course you can.
yeah,
Statistically, it's much harder, but you can, especially in this division.
yep,
But it would be really, really bad.
yep. We'd be having a tough recap game on Monday.
Rodgers would be whispering into the mic on Pat McAfee next week. 5 letters.
Yeah, yeah. I quit.
Good luck, Jordan Love.
Yeah.
What I was going to lob to you,
Yep. I'm ready for this lob to go for a probable oop.
outside of Lazard, who we're excited to see back and hope he's able to work himself in and look like the WR1 he has an opportunity to be this season. What one receiver would you like to see pop the most for Green Bay this week? It's probably got to be one of the 2 rookies, I would assume. Winfrey had a nice play, but I just think there's levels to this.
There is, in fact, levels to this. This is tough.
Or I guess it could be Sammy.
It depends on how we're like framing this question. We're framing this question. And this is a rhetorical question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are we framing it as what's best for like the team this season? What's best for the team like going forward, or what's best just for cohesion between Aaron Rodgers and the wide receiving group? Like,
That's why I just said which would you like to
I
see,
know,
so you can factor whichever one you think is most pressing.
right? And I think the answer is going to be Christian Watson. And I say that with a smirk and a grin because all of me wants to say Romeo Dobbs. But the
Yeah.
issue is I already believe Romeo Dobbs is going to be a wide receiver in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like I already have that confidence in him based on preseason and how he did his work last week. Like it wasn't good, but he didn't make critical mistakes. That
Right.
like even the one where he went in and Rodgers went out, Rodgers admitted that it was just a miscommunication. That happens.
Yeah.
I want to see Christian Watson get his confidence to know that he can do this work and he can be that player and start to get these snaps and get in a rhythm for the rest of the season because he didn't have that chance in preseason. I think that Christian Watson succeeding this week and having a breakout game fills those 3 criteria I talked about. I think it
Mm-hmm.
does the most for the Packers this week. I think it does the most for the wide receivers going forward this season. And I think it does a lot to help instill trust in Rodgers with his wide receiving group as a whole.
Yeah. I agree. I think it would be. I'm not going to turn my nose at if this week is the start of the Romeo Dobbs emergence tour. I'm fine with that too, of
Me
course.
too, of
But
course.
I think long and short term, I agree with you. Even if it still needs to be proven on the field with Rodgers, I do think it does. Like I don't think we can pencil in Dobbs for anything yet. I agree that he's just closer in a lot of ways than Watson.
Right.
And I just think wide receivers, the nature of it, the just you're I think wide receivers and corners, it's kind of like you're the most out there. It's almost like the most to prove week to week.
Yep.
I just think if he's really quiet again, or is, if we come away with more mistakes than good plays for Watson again this week, that it's just going to be hard to overcome. And I think we talked about vibes earlier. There's probably people who think that they don't matter at all. I think they do. I know you think they do. And I think for the entire team, long and short term, Rodgers and Watson connecting a couple of times on big plays, I think it's good for everybody, especially Watson. But I think it's good for everybody to kind of just make it like that erases the bad feeling from last week. A nice win. Watson looks good. Nobody else, I mean, he kind of shit on Amari Rodgers, kind of needlessly. Aaron Rodgers did. Don't really know why. Just is less important. Sorry, Amari Rodgers. Hope you prove him wrong or whatever. But in terms of the main cast of characters this season, I think the one who the whole defense, and then Watson is the one who I think really needs to like prove somebody wrong, if anybody. So I agree with you. I think he's the clear answer.
We won't get into the Amari Rodgers quote unless Aaron Rodgers continues to speak on it and speak about different players, and then I'll have a rant that might rival some of the other notorious GSPN rants that exist on this podcast network. Yeah, that's all I'll say right now.
Fair, that's fair.
But yeah, Sunday Night Football this week.
Yeah,
it's going to be
7:20 NBC, baby.
Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth.
No, it's not.
What? But oh no, Al Michaels isn't with them anymore. It's Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico.
Yeah.
Yep. I forgot they lost Al.
Hopefully Chris has gotten better.
Yeah, he didn't sound good.
Well, apparently he wasn't sick. The line from Tirico was that he did the 2 games in 3 days or whatever, and it killed his voice.
That'll happen.
There's conspiracy theorists that think he did get sick and they didn't want to admit it on TV. Who knows? But whatever the case, First, I like Chris Collinsworth generally. I think he's fun to listen to.
Yep.
Hopefully he is recovered. I will miss Al and Chris, who, for all the jokes and memes, elite Sunday night coverage.
They are.
Nobody can say a player name and get me hype more than Al Michaels.
I agree. Al Michaels has the privilege. We're going to go on a little tangent here.
Yeah.
Al Michaels has had such a cool broadcasting career. Like, he called Miracle, and then that's like the one big one that he's like obviously like known for calling. But then all through the 80s and 90s, the 2000s, and up until now, he's been calling so many cool plays. Like, he called ODB's one-handed OPI or DPI catch for a touchdown. He just had a chance. He's in our intro with the Antonio Freeman catch off the ankle. He did what? Oh, I love a good Al Michaels call. He's definitely one of the biggest NFL shills there's ever been, but I love him calling a game.
Yeah. He, for me right now, is top 2 in terms of national play-by-play guys. He's 2, I think, but he's top 2.
In NFL or like all the sports?
Across sports.
Is it Mike Breen?
I do love a Mike Breen. I probably have him 3.
Who's one?
I sell out for Kevin Harlan.
Oh, thank God.
I love Kevin Harlan. When he called the 2 games at once in NFL, like a couple of years ago now, it was so good. He was like really just stunting on everyone else. I just think he's great.
Yeah, he's a great play-by-play guy. Chris
Green up there though. I mean, the bang is the most iconic phrase in sports broadcasting. It's nobody's close.
Right.
Sorry, Berman. The back, thankfully is done.
Yes. But Chris Collinsworth, yes. I hope he's better soon because he's up there with Romo with just like, he's so fun to listen to call a game. He's clearly excited about football all the time, but he knows what he's talking about, and he can give great analysis.
The NFL is good about that. There's very few, it feels like, jaded former players. They love the game.
We're still going.
They love the current game.
We're still going on a tangent. It's the biggest separation between coverage of the NFL and coverage of the NBA.
Yeah, like there's less haters.
You will find no.
There's a crew of 7 old guys and Michael Strahan that talks every morning for hours
about how great football is.
They don't hate. Yeah, they're just like, who's great? This guy and this guy and this team and this coach. It's a relentless propaganda machine.
Oh, it's relentless.
Man, it makes great content.
It makes great content, and it makes for a more enjoyable consuming experience as a fan for football.
100%. 100%.
So that'll end our tangent. But
Yeah.
as we mentioned, 7:20 this week, Sunday Night Football.
Let me confirm it's 7:20.
It is.
I think it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You get to lead in to kickoff with a wonderful rendition of some sort of football song by Carrie Underwood. I assume. I'm pretty sure she's still doing it. Regardless,
I hope so.
Regardless of it all. Excited for the Bears this week. Packers week is always fun. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers still owns the Chicago Bears. See if he yells it at the Bears sideline and starts.
Big Cat's gonna be insufferable if the Bears win this.
Oh my God! I don't want to know. I don't want to.
Shout out your fantasy team name. That's all I gotta say. Okay.
Yes. Ty, I believe.
Yeah.
We have a review.
We do, as promised.
As
Packer Fansky.
Promised. Are you gonna read it?
I am. We didn't forget. Do you have it up?
I don't.
Okay, then I'll read it. 2 weeks ago, he or she left this review. 5 stars, of course. If it's not 5 stars, we're not reading it. So make sure
That's right.
On Apple Podcasts, we'll try to find it, but you can always submit it to us via the Discord forum at gspn.info. Make sure we read it, and you can also do that if you subscribe to the Substack or leave a 5-star rating on the Spotify mobile app, or show us you're subscribed wherever you listen on YouTube. We'll read the review if it's pertinent to the show. So 5 stars, Packer Fansky. The title is Another GSPN W, and the review itself, thrilled that the GSPN squad has expanded into Packer Talk, loving the show so far. That was 2 weeks ago. The season had not even started. So shout out to Packer Fansky on 831 who left that beautiful review.
Thank you, Packer Fansky. I appreciate your support and review. As a new podcaster, I love seeing all of you guys enjoy this this feed so much and this pod so much. So thank you for all your support. Free, send it to a friend. Send it to your mom. Send it to your grandfather, who is a diehard Packer fan, who was there at Lambeau Field in the 60s when they won the Ice Bowl. I'm sure he'll love it too. He might not get all the references, but he might like the Packers talk. I'm
glad you kept it pushing with more family members. I thought you were on like a Young Gravy tip with the send it to a mom. So, or a Zach Wilson, I guess. Okay, let's. I know it's my fault.
We should wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to another wonderful episode of Talk of the Tundra as we prepare for Bears Week. We will be back with you on Monday to recap the game. It will be most likely 99% Ty and somebody else, as I am out of town this weekend. But they will hold down the fort perfectly, as I am sure they will. Ty, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Numac.